Hey, I'm Charting Man Dan, trader and technical analyst for the last 13 years. In this video, we're going to check in on the broader market. Yesterday, it was big tech holding things up, and today they rolled over and joined the bears, and it was about as bearish a day as you can have. A little bit of green in utilities. We were keeping an eye out for that bounce. Let's check in on the markets.
All right, so SPY confirmed the daily bear flag. We knew the probabilities increased that was going to happen after IWM and XLF confirmed their bear flags. And as I mentioned, it was just the big tech names that all stood out yesterday, really just holding things together, succumbing to the current. And, the analogy was a significant number of small people pulling on a tug of war versus a few really big, strong people, and the masses won. As we rolled over, we knew the daily lower highs were the most likely scenario eventually. It happened to be set today, and we are now, the big question for the rest of the week is, does the NASDAQ drop to the lower low as well, or do bulls defend the low of last week and try and tighten up a little bit? We are getting a little extreme as far as the fear is concerned in the short term, but I'm also keeping in account that we don't have extreme RSI levels on the NASDAQ. The 4-hour RSI is not oversold. The hourly RSI hardly got oversold today. It was one of those slow grind bear control days. And I often say that my aggressiveness looking to play bounces matches the bears, meaning if we're in free fall, that's when you generally can see a pretty solid V-shaped bounce once you find that bottom. But if you're just grinding down, look at the 5-minute RSI. The 5-minute RSI from the morning hit oversold, and then we kept just grinding down while it just went sideways. Because again, we're not dumping at that point, but it's just full bear control. And at that point, let's see, what do we have from there? We were looking at all major sectors hitting the low at the same time. Whenever that happens, again, it's a flashing light in my brain. It tells me 3 things. Number 1, don't look long. That's a day where I sit out looking long. And I did long NEE, which I talked about pre-market on the live stream. And that was before we had that signal taking place. So that definitely was a little bit of, would have been an impact, but not at that point in time. So don't look long, look for shorts, and look for a midday hourly bear flag. And this is something that happens fairly often. I'm trying to pull up the late morning. Why is it not going there? Late morning note of bears love a slow grind day, keep full control, and RSI levels don't get extreme. Many times on our all major sectors at lows together days, we get a midday hourly bear flag. And that bounce started 1 minute later. And we got the hourly bear flag. And at that point, it could have been a 15-minute uptrend or a bear flag, and the bears followed through. So aggressive bears scout the midday hourly bear flag. It obviously doesn't happen every time, but it happens often enough where we can make that statement that we should be watching for it. And what I want to see tomorrow is a gap down open to be looking for some short-term bounces. And whether or not we get that remains to be seen. If we don't get it, then I don't know what I'm going to be looking at. Depends on what the pre-market setup is. But overall, all about whether or not the NASDAQ breaks support as well. So the play on NEE, as we knew, the utilities were at extremes, and we were looking for a bounce. I like the fact that NEE was opening higher than XLU. XLU broke the low of yesterday, but closed in the green, one of the very few sectors to be green today, and NEE as well. So I've got my swing position from the morning live stream. And at this point, one thing that I often will do is I'll grab a swing position and then I'll look to day trade as well. And so I did a couple day trade flips, playing off that low of yesterday once it held, and essentially lowering my cost basis 1%. So initial entry 51.90 and knocked that cost basis down about a percent through day trades. And my target will be to sell partial in ideally the 54s. If we see some bounce follow through to get this daily oversold bounce going tomorrow, I'll look to sell partial. And then at that point, my break even will be under the low, and I will potentially just stick my stop under the low and let it play out from there. Otherwise, we'll see. Burden's on bull still. We have to confirm the hourly uptrend. That has not happened yet. So hourly higher low and higher high for both NEE and XLU have to confirm. One thing that I did today is I stared at these two names, and I traded them a bunch, just little day trade flips, as I mentioned. But as I say, analogies in the past, we want to be dating the stocks that we trade. We want to get to know them and get familiar with them. So I today was dating XLU and NEE. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you have this bid and ask spread often? Questions like that as I watch to see how it trades. What's the volume like? What's the liquidity like? There was a couple times where I was shorting XLU just as a hedge, knowing that I was going to swing NEE and knowing hourly consolidation was coming. So here we'd test the high of the day and short the high of the day, exit partial into the drop, stop out the rest. So just getting familiar with it because I know that it has extreme volatility and its volatility is going to continue at least the first half of October, and just getting more comfortable trading it. Tesla, all things considered, bulls pleased that it was a daily inside bar and still watching for a weekly higher low. We can say the Tesla bulls are positioned well if the broader market can see a fear bounce, but that's a big if because the bulls certainly didn't show us anything today that had that stand out as likely. So Tesla, we did see a bearish opportunity here where we see a V-shaped bounce and reject from the high of the day by 26 cents and then roll back over again. But again, overall, daily inside bar, trying to shape up a daily uptrend to set that weekly higher low. NVDA, bears, it was a lead bull for the first few minutes. We failed the high of yesterday. We tried again and failed again, and then we rolled over. And once we hit that new low of the day from that failure, that's when things started to get ugly. That's when the NASDAQ rolled over, and when all of our big tech names, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, everything that held it up yesterday, rolled over very significantly. And unfortunately, this is the first day that Fidelity hasn't had shorts available on NVDA ever for me. And I was looking to short, I pulled up my order to fill it out here to short here, this 5-minute lower high, and there were no short shares available. Could have grabbed some options, but I trade options so infrequently that for me, it's like, if it's not the ideal scenario, then just move on to the next trade versus trying to scramble and, find what contract I want to look at on the fly. But overall, is this the weekly lower high being set on the NVDA head and shoulders? Maybe. We do have a confirmed hourly downtrend. The bulls will try and confirm an uptrend, which we haven't done yet. What I would like to see, patterns that I am most familiar with, I want to see confirm a daily uptrend with zero follow through. And that would have me looking for that weekly lower high a bit more aggressively. There's aggressive bears that are already in and saying, this is our weekly lower high or I am wrong. And they're using 452 as their stop. And we'll see if that ends up being that right shoulder or not. I'd like to see the price a little bit closer to this resistance zone. Financial sector still leading the way down. Big bear flag follow through at this point. And again, another reason why we're keeping an eye out for short-term bounces is this daily RSI is oversold down at 26. And it certainly has been more beat up in the past, but it's oversold. So that has us keeping an eye out. IWM, same thing. All bears following through with the flag. At this point, we're entering a support zone, 166, 167. And also just getting back to daily oversold conditions there. MSOS, bear break on the daily. Red Marubozu candle. I would have expected more volume. It was an uptick in volume, but not significant. But we finally broke support and we closed at the low of the day. We, from the weekend video, talked about how a bear break was more likely than a bull break, just based on the criteria that I described in that video from over the weekend. And now at this point, I'm watching for a weekly higher low entry. I'm watching weekly EMA 12, and I'm watching for 4-hour oversold conditions if we get there. The bears are proving themselves now. We have an hourly lower high at 781. Anything under that keeps the bears in control, and that's clear. Bear break. You can see we've closed lower than we've opened 11 of the last 13 days. That's meaningful as well. And we look at the peers. They've been weaker this whole time. CGC just keeps fading. ACB keeps fading. TLRY had a little bit of a bounce going. They either have earnings tomorrow or Friday. TradingView says Friday. I've heard tomorrow. But either way, all profit taking, all slow fade. And this has to do with the huge pump up. Everybody that's going to buy on that news bought. And now we've got space in between headlines and time. And time is a bear's friend, and the broader market sentiment is a bear's friend. So we will be looking for weekly higher lows in these names, but they're not shaping up just yet. The dollar is still strong. We did pull back a little bit today, but just tightening up. It was a 15-minute tightening range, a 30-minute tightening range, an hourly tightening range. And we're watching to see tomorrow, do we head into daily consolidation, knowing we've still got the daily EMA 12 and the uptrend support as our guide. 10-year was a bit stronger, I think, today. Yep. 10-year still up at the highs. And that's impacting the metals. Metals tried to bounce a bit today, but still weak because the dollar is still strong. So a bit of a sideways day for gold. And silver. Silver with a little bit better of a bounce. But overall, we don't have any confidence in these bounces as long as the dollar is up at the highs. And oil trying to hold support 88.19. Technically, we broke it, but if the bulls can confirm a 4-hour uptrend from here, then we're watching for that right shoulder to potentially form on the daily head and shoulders setup. So overall, we'll see if the bulls can confirm the hourly uptrends in the utilities and NEE. We'll see if the NASDAQ breaks daily support. We're going to watch for the potential of a gap down to look for some short-term bounces. And uranium, I'm going to be watching for a CCJ weekly higher low. Not quite just yet, but patiently observing it. Other than that, hope you're well and hope you had a good day. Do good things. That's my editing platform.
First fig of the year.